My ex spread lies that I was an unfit parent to win custody of our son. I gathered evidence and won in court. That was 2 months ago. Today, he's begging me to let him see our child. You know how they say revenge is a dish best served cold? Well, I'm sitting here with a plate full of it, and honestly, it tastes better than I expected. But let me back up and tell you this whole crazy story from the beginning, because man, it's been one wild ride. So picture this. I'm a single mom, working my tail off at a marketing firm downtown, trying to juggle everything like I'm some kind of circus performer. My ex, let's call him Derek, had been out of the picture for most of our son's life. Kid's 7 now, and Derek maybe saw him on weekends when he felt like it. You know the type. Shows up when it's convenient, disappears when real parenting kicks in. For real, this dude would cancel last minute because he had plans with his buddies or some new girlfriend. My son would be sitting by the window with his little backpack, waiting for daddy to pick him up, and I'd have to explain why daddy wasn't coming. Again. It broke my heart every single time. Then out of nowhere, Derek decides he wants full custody. Not joint custody, not more visitation, full custody. I'm talking about taking my baby away from me completely. At first, I thought he was just trying to mess with me or avoid paying child support. Boy, was I wrong. This man came at me with everything he had. Started documenting every little thing, taking pictures of toys left out, claiming I was neglecting our son's education because he got a B- on a spelling test. Derek even hired some hotshot lawyer from across town, you know, one of those guys in the shiny suits who charge more per hour than I make in a week. The accusations were absolutely wild. He claimed I was drinking heavily, that I left our son alone for hours, that I was dating random guys and bringing them around. All complete lies, no cap. I maybe have a glass of wine while watching Netflix once a week, and I hadn't been on a date in months because I was too busy being a full-time mom. But here's where it gets really messed up. Derek had been planning this for months. He'd been calling CPS with anonymous tips, trying to build a case. Had his new girlfriend take pictures of our apartment when she picked up our son for a weekend visit, claiming it was messy and unsafe. They even tried to say I was emotionally abusing our kid because he seemed withdrawn sometimes. The kid was just shy, for crying out loud. Update. Things are about to get absolutely insane in court, and I'm honestly scared I might lose my son. Has anyone dealt with false accusations in a custody battle? What evidence actually matters? The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 months out, and those were the longest 3 months of my life. I felt like I was drowning, trying to prove I wasn't this terrible person Derek was painting me as. How do you prove a negative? How do you show you're not doing all these horrible things? But I wasn't going down without a fight. I started documenting everything. Every text message, every phone call, every interaction. I bought a small camera for our living room because I was paranoid about what they might try to claim next. Started keeping receipts for everything I bought for our son, took pictures of healthy meals I cooked, documented every school event I attended. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, became my saving grace. This sweet elderly lady had been watching our comings and goings for years from her front porch. She offered to be a character witness, said she'd never seen anything concerning and that I was one of the most dedicated mothers she'd ever observed. Sometimes guardian angels come in unexpected packages. I also reached out to my son's teacher, his pediatrician, even the parents of his friends. Everyone was shocked to hear about Derek's accusations. Mrs. Rodriguez, his second-grade teacher, said she'd be happy to testify that I was actively involved in his education and that he was a well-adjusted, happy kid. The pediatrician's records became crucial evidence. Every vaccination, every checkup, every sick visit, I was the one who brought him in. Derek's name wasn't on a single medical document as the accompanying parent, not once. Then I discovered something that changed everything. Derek's social media was public, and this genius had been posting photos from bars and parties during times he claimed he was worried about our son's well-being. I'm talking about posts from 2 in the morning on school nights, holding beer bottles, with captions about living his best life. But the real kicker? His new girlfriend posted a video on her Instagram story showing Derek passed out drunk on their couch while our son was supposedly visiting for the weekend. You could see my kid in the background, just sitting there playing with his Nintendo Switch, completely unsupervised while daddy was unconscious. I screenshot everything, every post, every check-in at bars, every photo with timestamps. Built myself a whole dossier of evidence that painted a very different picture than what Derek was trying to sell in court. My lawyer, bless her heart, was this fierce woman who took my case pro bono after hearing Derek's accusations. She said she'd seen too many good mothers lose their kids to manipulative fathers who knew how to work the system. She was determined to make sure that didn't happen to us. We spent weeks preparing for court, going over every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every document that proved I was a fit parent. She coached me on how to stay calm under pressure, how to respond to accusations without getting emotional. It was like training for the most important performance of my life. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about worst-case scenarios, about having to explain to my son why mommy couldn't live with him anymore, about missing bedtime stories and homework help and Saturday morning pancakes. The thought of Derek getting custody made me physically sick. Update. Court day arrived and Derek's lawyer just presented evidence that I never saw coming. I'm sitting here shaking, wondering if I prepared enough. What would you do if you felt like the system was failing you? Walking into that courthouse felt like entering a battle zone. Derek showed up in a new suit, clean-shaven, looking like Father of the Year. His lawyer had a stack of documents and a confident smirk that made my stomach turn. For a moment, I wondered if I was in over my head. Derek's attorney went first, painting this picture of me as an unfit mother who was too busy partying to care for her child. They presented photos of my apartment that made it look chaotic, though they were taken on a day when we'd been building a fort in the living room. They twisted innocent situations into evidence of neglect. The worst part was when they called Derek to testify. This man looked the judge straight in the eye and lied about everything. Said he'd been trying to get more involved in our son's life, but I was preventing it. Claimed he was concerned about my drinking, about the men I was bringing around, about my son's declining grades. He even teared up while talking about how worried he was about his son's safety. If I didn't know better, I would have believed him myself. Derek always was a good actor when it served his purposes. Then my lawyer stood up and everything changed. She started with the medical records, showing years of documentation proving I was the primary caregiver. Every doctor's visit, every emergency room trip, every vaccination, my signature was on everything. Derek couldn't even tell the judge our son's pediatrician's name. Next came the school records, parent-teacher conferences, volunteer hours, field trip permissions, all signed by me. Derek had never attended a single school function, not one. Christmas concert, not one science fair, not one soccer game. The attendance records spoke volumes, but the real bombshell was the social media evidence. My lawyer projected Derek's Facebook posts onto a screen for everyone to see. Photos of him partying while claiming he was worried about parenting. Check-ins at bars during times he was supposed to be caring for our son. The timeline was devastating. The video of Derek passed out drunk while our child was in his care played, in complete silence. You could hear a pin drop in that courtroom. The judge's expression changed from neutral to concerned to downright angry as the evidence mounted. My neighbors testified about my character, my son's teacher spoke about my involvement in his education, and even my boss came to court to verify that I'd never had alcohol-related issues at work. Person after person painted a picture of a dedicated mother who was being falsely accused. Derek's lawyer tried to object to some of the social media evidence, claiming it was taken out of context, but timestamps don't lie, and neither do medical records or school documents. The facts were overwhelming. When it was my turn to testify, I simply told the truth. I talked about the bedtime stories, the homework sessions, the middle-of-the-night fever checks. I explained how Derek had been largely absent from our son's life until he decided he wanted custody. I stayed calm, answered every question honestly, and let the evidence speak for itself. The judge's decision was swift and decisive. Not only did I retain full custody, but Derek's visitation was reduced to supervised visits only. The judge stated that Derek had presented false evidence to the court and had attempted to manipulate the legal system for his own purposes. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. As we were leaving the courthouse, Derek actually had the nerve to approach me. This man who had just spent months trying to destroy my reputation and take my child away wanted to talk. He started with some nonsense about how this wasn't personal, how he just wanted what was best for our son. I looked him straight in the eye and told him that lying about me being an unfit mother was about as personal as it gets. The supervised visitation was more than he deserved after what he'd put us through. Update. 2 months later, and Derek is practically begging me to let him see our son more often. After everything he put us through, he wants me to just forget it happened. Should I even consider it? Or is this just another manipulation? That brings us to today, and honestly, I'm still processing everything that's happened. Derek has been calling, texting, even showing up at my work trying to convince me to modify the custody arrangement. He claims he's changed, that he realizes he made mistakes, that he just wants to be a father to his son. The audacity is incredible. This man tried to destroy my life, attempted to paint me as an unfit mother to a room full of strangers, and now he wants sympathy? He wants me to believe he's had some kind of revelation? My son has been doing amazing since the court case ended. His grades improved, he's sleeping better, and he's actually started asking fewer questions about why daddy acts the way he does. Kids are more perceptive than we give them credit for. He could sense the tension and stress, and now that it's gone, he's thriving. Derek's supervised visits haven't been going well. The court-appointed supervisor reports that he spends most of the time on his phone, doesn't engage with our son, and has canceled 3 visits in the past month. Some things never change. But here's what really gets me. Derek's family has started reaching out too. His mother called last week, crying about how she misses her grandson and asking if I'd consider letting Derek have unsupervised visits. The same woman who never called to check on us during the custody battle is now playing the victim. I've been getting advice from all directions. Some people say I should be the bigger person, that my son needs his father in his life. Others say Derek made his bed and should lie in it. My lawyer says I hold all the cards now and shouldn't feel pressured to change anything. The truth is, I'm torn. Not because I trust Derek, that ship sailed when he tried to take my baby away from me, but because I want what's best for my son, and I keep wondering if keeping his father at arm's length is the right choice. Derek's latest attempt to win me over involved showing up at our apartment with expensive toys and promises to pay for private school. He stood in my doorway talking about how he's been going to therapy, how he's learned from his mistakes, how he wants to be the father our son deserves. I listened to his whole speech, then asked him one simple question. If he's really changed, why did it take losing in court for him to figure out how to be a decent parent? Why wasn't our son worth the effort before he faced legal consequences? He didn't have an answer for that. The reality is that Derek's actions during the custody battle revealed his true character. He was willing to lie, manipulate, and potentially traumatize our child to get what he wanted. That's not the behavior of someone who puts their child's needs first. I've decided to stick with the court's decision. Derek can have his supervised visits, and if he proves over time that he's genuinely changed, we can revisit the arrangement. But I'm not going to be manipulated into giving him more access to our son just because he's learned to say the right words. My son is happy, healthy, and secure. He knows he's loved, he knows he's safe, and he knows his mom will always fight for him. Derek had years to be a present father, and he chose not to be. The consequences of his choices during the custody battle are his to live with. Sometimes, people ask if I feel bad about how everything turned out. The honest answer is no. Derek brought this on himself when he decided to lie about me being an unfit mother. He could have tried to work with me to increase his involvement in our son's life, but instead he chose to go to war. Well, he got his war, and he lost. Spectacularly. These days, life is pretty good. My son and I have our routine, our weekend, adventures, our inside jokes. We're building the kind of relationship I always wanted him to have with a parent, one based on trust, consistency, and genuine love. Derek can keep calling, keep begging, keep making promises he probably won't keep. I've got everything I need right here, my amazing kid, proof that the truth wins in the end, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the good guys actually do finish first. And you know what? That plate of cold revenge I mentioned at the beginning? It's even more satisfying than I imagined. Justice served with a side of karma, exactly the way it should be.